to the Me, Myself and Hopefully You podcast. My name is Tariq, a university student who has no idea what I want to do with my life. And so, rather than see a career advisor, I decided to start a podcast where I interview guests from all around the world. And hopefully, by interviewing them and hearing more about their stories, I can get some advice on how to create one for myself too. So, if you can relate, or maybe you just want to see where I end up, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a follow on Spotify so you don't miss out on new podcast episodes. Ladies and gentlemen, this week I sit with a man who is riddled with alcoholism and just stuck in that corporate lifestyle until an earthquake and a heart attack ended up rejuvenating him and regenerating him into a completely new man. So much so that he ended up losing over 50 pounds and becoming an ultra runner, documenting his journey on Instagram, racking up over 100,000 followers along the way. It was absolutely incredible getting Ian on today, and I just can't wait for you guys to watch it. So without further ado, today's guest, ladies and gentlemen, it's Ian Morgan. Right, Ian, I want to start off with asking you a few quick fire questions just to get to know you a bit more. The first question to you is, who would you consider as a role model?
Wow, interesting question.
Yeah.
That's a good first question, actually. You know, to be honest, it's not like the elite people that I follow, or the sort of like the high level professional sports people, because for them that's their profession and their career. For me, it's more the everyday people that work at a job, raise kids, and still get out and train and do these amazing things. Just the regular runners that I follow on Instagram or that I see out there, those are probably more the role models, because I know, coming from a background of being that guy that had to go through that journey, I know how, especially when you're holding down a job and you're raising kids and you're paying a mortgage and bills and whatever. So for me, it's just the regular people doing amazing things. So those would be the people that are my real role models. Obviously, I have elites that I look up to, guys like Ian Jornet, Jim Walmsley, Francois Dane, these sort of top level guys, just because of their physical and mental abilities. But yeah, the real role models that get out there and give this a go.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate to that, because so one of my aims with this podcast was to get people on who've got ordinary people on with extraordinary stories, essentially. So the everyday person who hasn't lost 100 stones, but has lost maybe 2-3 stones, and has had an incredible journey with that, and has had ups and downs. It's not been a straight going, losing 2 stones. He's lost 2 stones, gained 1 stone, then lost another stone, all that sort of stuff, all while maybe having kids and struggling financially or whatever. Just those kind of stories. So I can definitely relate to that side. My second quick fire question to you is, it's a bit of a random one. What's the last thing that's on your camera roll?
The last thing on my camera roll, I actually sent a picture to Fran, my wife, this morning in Chile, because she just had surgery last night. So yeah, I sent her a good morning picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because I follow both yourself and Fran on Instagram. And I was going to ask you, is she doing all right now? She's had her surgery, I saw, and she seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, it was successful, and thank goodness they didn't find anything untoward. They were a little concerned about some abnormal growths that they found, and they had to remove them all and do the biopsies. But it looks like at this stage it's all come back clear. So,
thankfully, do you know when she'll be able to get back on running?
I think she told me in the half-induced drug state last night from the anesthetic that it should be about a week. So it's not it's not a running-related injury or surgical issue. It's just I'm getting older kind of issue. Life. Yeah.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I mean, you say you're getting older. Yeah. You both look like you're in your 20s, late 20s. It blows. When you said you were 50 on your Instagram, I was like, there's no way this man is 50.
There's no way.
Yeah. I just turned 51 a few weeks ago. But Fran's the one that looks younger. She has the magic of the fountain of youth. I don't know how she does it, but
No, you both, honestly, you both look like you could be in your 20s and 30s, to be fair. Like, there's no, I just couldn't believe it. But we'll get into why you look so young a little later on. My final quick fire question to you is, if there was a house fire and everyone made it out alive, all any pets that you might have made it out alive, but you could only keep one thing, what would that thing be?
Ooh. I think once again, this is a interesting one to answer. I sold just about everything I own: houses, cars, bicycles, everything, because I realized that there was really no value in stuff. But I guess, I mean, to be honest, I would probably grab my phone, because being on social media allows me to live this lifestyle. So, let's just say my cell phone, for the mere fact that it allows me to continue to live this lifestyle. But
normally I don't let people say phone or laptop, because it got to a point where everyone was saying either their phone or their laptop. But if the phone and the laptop are also safe, what would be the next thing?
Okay, the phone and the laptop are also safe. It's because life has changed so much. In 20 years ago, I would have said, photo albums of my kids or something like that. But we don't have this anymore, because it's all on phones or laptops. Or actually, it's in an iCloud or online storage. I'm not really a thing kind of guy. Probably some running shoes, so after the house is burned down, I can go for a run to process it. But that's about it. I'm not really into stuff. I own very little on purpose. I prefer a very minimal lifestyle. So as long as everyone's safe and we have our lives, really the rest of it can burn. Doesn't matter.
I mean, it's interesting because you're the first person I've asked that question to who has had a similar experience to that question. You were, what I found out was that in 2011, you were involved in an earthquake where the house came down and you had to, you ran out and and we'll get into that. Sorry, I don't want to explain the story yet. We'll definitely get into that. Before we get into all of that, could you just sort of introduce yourself, Ian, to the audience, a bit more about you?
Okay. My name is Ian Morgan. I was born in New Zealand and raised in New Zealand, Christchurch, New Zealand, which is in the South Island. Currently 51 years old, just. So this is my first foray into the decade of my 50s, which has certainly been interesting. I actually was a very inactive, regular, normal Kiwi guy, I guess you would say, up until my mid-40s when I started to run. And I think the rest of the story is probably on social media. I found a real, connection with running, passion for it, started to run and train more, explore beautiful places in New Zealand, and then eventually in different places all around the world. Now I, sold everything I had, moved out into the world and decided to become a bit of a nomad, just traveling, running, having adventures. Met someone with the same passion and got together, and now we both do this. We don't work in jobs, we don't own a lot of stuff. We just live our lives and enjoy what we do.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you met your wife whilst you were on this journey, which is pretty incredible that you found someone that just like you had left everything behind and was there like, you know what, I just want to explore the world. And I highly recommend everyone to follow Ian on Instagram because they are inspirational, but they're incredible. Some of the stuff that you go and see and the places that you visited and some of the pictures and the videos that you've taken, it is incredible to see. I want to ask you about sort of before the running, just before the running, because I mean it's been said several times on your social media about how you were at a point where you were quite unfit, you were a businessman, you were reliant on alcohol, you were very much sort of, I would say, the typical 30, 40-year-old who works hard and believes that having things is what will make them happy. A lot of us all sort of believe that. I definitely still kind of believe that. that having certain things will make you happy, you know, a businessman working hard, but you were extremely unfit and reliant on alcohol. How did you get to that point? How did you get to that stage?
I think, I mean, if I look at it honestly, and I know myself, and I like do some like sort of like brutal self-examination, I'm basically lazy, lazy mentally and physically. I just thought that this is what everyone did. I thought, okay, you know, make enough money. You know, my father said, you know, you have to make enough. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I guess being in New Zealand, the goal was always you buy and own your own home. And then after you've done that, you buy another one and you build up this nest egg. So when you get to 65, you have your own home, maybe a holiday home, and then you retire and you basically go on the odd on cruise ship or go on a holiday to the, you know, the Pacific Islands for 2 weeks. It was kind of like almost like the path is laid out of this is what a successful Kiwi or New Zealander looks like. And, you know, I just didn't fit. I wasn't really happy. The more I got, the unhappier I became. And I'd like to point out that wasn't anything to do with the people or my first marriage where I eventually got divorced, or we got divorced after 20 odd years together. We have 4 adult grown up children. But it wasn't a reflection of the lifestyle, because some people are extremely happy, you know, with the house or the car or the business and all these things, but it just didn't feel right for me. And it almost felt like I'd been lying to myself for a number of years that this wasn't fulfilling. Not that I'm ungrateful and that of everything that I worked hard for and that I have or had. It just didn't fit me. And I think this is the key, is to know yourself and know what your thing is. If you actually enjoy working 60 or 80-hour weeks and want to own Ferraris and want to have a number of properties, and that actually truly fulfills you, then I think you should do it, if that's your thing. If you want to be in the medical profession, if you want to be a dancer, a vet, a teacher, a sports person, whatever it is, or even none of those things, and you just want to have some kids and be a really good parent, family man, or wife, or whatever, you have to find the thing that fulfills you and then pursue that. And I think that changes throughout your life as well. So don't be like tied to a course just because, you know, in your 20s you're quite a different person than you are in your 40s or 50s. So I think certainly it's about finding fulfillment. So knowing yourself and what fulfills you, and then pursuing that, because we only have one life and you've got to make the most of it. I think that quote, famous quote, that second life begins when we realize we only have one life. I think that's, you know, the key for a lot of us. And I think there's some watershed moments in our lives where we come to that crossroads and realize this. What we do with that is entirely up to each individual.
Yeah, I think it was Mark Twain that said that quote, or a quote similar to that. I'm not too sure. Yes. Yeah. I want 2 Ferraris. I just don't want to work 80-hour weeks. So I don't know how that's gonna happen, but hopefully.
And you know, and that's a good thing. If you want 2 Ferraris and you enjoy cars and your motorsport or luxury cars are your passion, then you should do that. Like, I have no issue with anyone owning staff, no issue with anyone doing what they want to do that fulfills them, as long as they're not like purposely destroying other people in the process. You know, but if you're doing something that makes you happy and it's fulfilling for you, go do it and get those 2 Ferraris, man.
Yeah, just without working the 80-hour weeks. What do you think, there was a point where you realized that this wasn't for you, or was it sort of a long process whilst you were in your 40s, sorry, where you went, oh, actually, no, this isn't what I want? Was there a specific point?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both, but I think the specific points, there were probably two that I can really tie it down to would be firstly, the earthquake in Christchurch 2011, and then the collapsing in the race and going to hospital and finding out about the genetic heart disease, cardiovascular disease, with the surgery for that. So I think those 2 points were like watershed moments that said, okay, what do I had sort of reflection after them saying, what do I really want to do with my life? What are the things that I really want to do? And I think they were the catalyst for that. But it was also, you know, between those moments and after those moments that also like the lifestyle that I'm living now developed. It wasn't just, okay, I've had this earthquake or I've had this heart issue, boom, I'm going to do this. It was more like a process and just like letting it develop day by day. But so, yeah, I think it will be a combination of both those things, you know, moments that I call a tap on the shoulder in life, and then seeing where that takes me in the process afterwards.
Yeah, no, I bet. I want to talk about that moment where the earthquake happened. Could you tell us a bit more about what happened there? Obviously, there was an earthquake. I think it was a few miles outside of Christchurch in 2011. That's where you were. And what happened when you felt that first shake? What was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, earthquake's an interesting thing if you've never been in one. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it's something cool to experience.
Yeah, we don't get them
so
in
we
the
had,
UK, so I've never experienced one.
No, I would suggest it. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a bit like when I had COVID. It's something that's interesting to have, but I wouldn't suggest getting it to experience it. So we had we had one big earthquake that was just outside Christchurch in 2010, and then September, October, November, December, January, February. So almost 6 months later, we had the big earthquake, which was actually under Christchurch. Yeah, that was a surreal experience. I was in a house at the time. I'd actually just gone home to have some lunch, and the whole house basically, you hear this rumbling noise, then boom, the whole house just lifted up off the foundations, dropped back down and broke into three, with all the walls and windows breaking, things flying out, etc. Yeah, it's interesting to be in a house, and I can still remember this quite clearly, where the house actually jumps up, because it wasn't so much a side to side shaking as it was a what they call a thrust fault. So it broke, and it's like basically like an uppercut in boxing, someone coming up underneath you and bang, and it's just the whole ground lifts up and then drops back down, and everything on the ground lifts up and drops back down. So it's kind of like a basketball bouncing, but with houses and buildings and people. So
wow, that's mental.
Yeah,
So everything just went up and then came back down.
Yeah, and you know, I remember trying to get out. It's not like a Hollywood movie where you're running through and things are falling. You're like a pinball, and that's probably not relevant to the youth of today, but like you're bouncing around like a, you know, like a, I don't know, it's like a ball in the squash court. You're just like bouncing off walls, etc. It's not as cool looking as the movies, that's for sure. But I remember the whole house lifting up, and I could see daylight. You know, the wall is jumped up like this, and there's the foundation, the floor I'm running on, and there's this big gap, and then the house comes back down, and then everything falls down, and there's water pipes bursting, and it's crazy. It's just insane. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I bet it was. Well, I didn't even know that's what I didn't know that would happen. Like, as in, the house would just go up. I thought when there's an earthquake, I've studied it as well in school, is that it would shake. You'd have a few shakes, and then you'd obviously get out because, you know, the house shake, you don't know what's going to happen. I didn't know that a whole house could lift up from its foundations and then come back down as well. I thought if it would lift up, it would fly away or something would happen. But the fact that it would lift it up and then came back down as well, that's mental. So were you outside when it lifted up then?
No, I was inside, and I couldn't get out. You know, the interesting thing is there was bits of a roof, because it's a two-story house, but the plaster wall started breaking and falling in. The glass, the windows just blow and all break. all the kitchen. I had to run through the kitchen. I say run, I say bounce through the kitchen. All the doors open and close, and things just flying out. It's like bizarre. Like, you know, like going back in after the quake to the house, like, you know, like the bed upstairs, the chests of drawers and the table with the mirror and everything on it had jumped up on top of the bed, and things are in impossible places that you think how can that get there, like, and it's just surreal, I guess. But yeah, it was an interesting earthquake, and it was one that they hadn't, like, it's one that I've studied a lot, because it was not like the normal sort of there's the epicenter, then there's the shock waves coming out, and yeah, there was those waves as well. I remember looking down the street after I just got out of the house. There was an aftershock that was quite high, and if you've ever seen asphalt, like a wave, like waves coming into a beach, it's bizarre. It's totally bizarre. But I'm glad I saw it for that, because it's such a surreal experience to observe.
Yeah, I bet it was. I really want to move to New Zealand, Christchurch, specifically as well. But then I've always thought with the UK, you're quite safe when it comes to natural disasters, whilst in place like New Zealand, you're not, it's not as safe. So that's my only sort of concern about moving somewhere like New Zealand. I just couldn't. I don't know what I'd do in an earthquake. I'd just probably end up having a panic attack, to be fair. Yeah, it'd be way too stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, New Zealand, yeah, it is the land of earthquakes and volcanoes. So
that's what I'm saying. That's my only thing. Everything else I love about New Zealand. Yeah, everything. And the weather's apparently quite good as well, but it's not too hot, because I don't like it when it's too hot. My next question to you is sort of about what. So you mentioned earlier on about how the earthquake and then eventually the heart attack as well. Before we touch on the heart attack, what do you think that the specific that earthquake kind of taught you about yourself, about life after that earthquake?
I think that was probably the start of the dismantling of having stuff is so important, because basically everything gets wrecked and within 12, 20 seconds. The 2 odd years that I spent in court after the earthquakes fighting insurance companies and etc., which we really don't want to go into, because it's an interesting process. But it makes you realize that the value of stuff is really irrelevant. Like when you have your life, that's it. And if then I sort of thought, okay, well, I have my life, but I don't really have my health. I was stressed and still overweight. So I think, coming back to it, it makes you value the importance of your life and who you have in it, rather than the things that you have in it. Certainly for me, yeah.
Was that the beginning of your sort of health journey and your getting slowly into running, or was that a bit later on?
It's a little bit later on, because I think it was just the stress of constantly dealing with insurance and government agencies and reports and assessments and for example, I've just settled, without going into all the details, I've just settled an insurance claim on one house that was damaged in 2011, and it's now 2021. In the last 2 weeks, 10 years of I wouldn't say fighting, because fighting wouldn't be the term, and people don't believe it. They say that's impossible. How can it? Why doesn't the government or the insurance company, how can they do this? They can. So just be aware.
Yeah, they just can. They don't, because they want you to pull out. That's why they want you. They want to elongate the process as long as possible, so that eventually you go, you know what? It's not even worth it. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they picked an ultra runner, so
Yeah, they picked an ultra runner.
I'm in it for the long haul, so I just
you're willing to go all the way to the end.
I just know that you just need, you just follow the process, keep going, yeah.
So how was that sort of beginning process of you getting into running? What was your first sort of run
Yeah.
like?
So
How did
yeah.
it
Sorry.
develop?
Yeah. So back to the story. Yeah. Um, so I was stressed for a number of years after the quakes with these things, and I was sitting there one day and I thought, man, I'm so unhappy. I'm dealing with this stuff all the time. I'm still living in a broken house, or the house we were in was actually wrecked, so we were living in another house. Luckily, we did own a few properties at that point, so we had the option to live in another place. And I thought, man, like, there's got to be some happiness here. There's got to be something other than this day after day situation of constant stress. And I thought back to a time when I was really happy in my life, and it's when I was a kid. We lived by the hills, and I used to go like spend the whole day in the hills, you know, like in the weekends and summer on vacations, whatever, just exploring, having adventures, you know, like running really fast down down the hills, jumping off rocks and things. And I don't know, it's just a watershed moment that was in my head, and I thought, that's when I was last truly happy. It's almost like, you know, childhood regression memory or something. I don't know. Just like go back to that point when you were just like felt free. There weren't the problems of the world on your shoulders. So I just in that moment thought, I got to get up and run. I know it's not a Hollywood thing. It's not Forrest Gump. It's nothing like that. We're
The
talking
music in the background. You're getting up, putting your trainers on. The
exactly.
Rocky song going in. What's it called? I can't remember what it is now.
Exactly. And I was drinking a beer sitting on the couch, but you know, but everything had just sort of like zoned out. I didn't even know what was on the TV, what was happening, and I just thought, man, this. I just need to feel that again, that experience. So I just put the beer down and went out for a run. I was wearing like jeans or something. I don't know, jeans and a shirt. And I just started to run, and it was horrible. I was sweating. I was suffering. I think I got blisters on my feet. I went for about a mile. But there was just something so powerful in that freedom of, I don't know whether it was running away or trying to recapture that moment in childhood, but it was just such a strong, powerful emotion. I thought, man, this is just somehow this is the purpose or the answer or something I have to pursue. It just felt right. I don't know. I can't really explain it. And then I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to just run and see where it takes me. And I didn't expect to be doing any of this. There was no plan to do any of this. It was just moving, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no. From what I read, it does seem like it was very much a spontaneous thing that you just went, oh, I'm just going to run, and then you fell in love with it. And so I'm guessing you ran quite consistently up until 2015. Where and at that point you entered. Was it a marathon? I can't remember what it was. The marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Queenstown Marathon.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you entered the marathon, and then you ended up suffering a heart attack. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
asking you questions about all the bad things that have happened in your life. I've just realized the earthquake, the heart attack. This isn't very uplifting.
Well, don't
podcast.
worry. There's actually going to be more when I finish my book. There's probably a lot more other details I can fill in, but we don't want to ruin the surprise. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, things were going along nicely. I was losing weight. I was getting fitter. I was really loving running. So I started this race. It's like down in the mountains in the south of New Zealand. Very beautiful, Queenstown. Started this race, and I just didn't feel right. I think it's like having like if you got a bit of a cold or like you just feel off, you know, maybe a bit of an upset stomach. I don't know, just didn't feel right. So I started running first 5K, and then I started to just find it hard to breathe. So I thought, okay, you know, you probably got something, some kind of bug, just push through to the end. So I kept running. I got to about sort of 10, 15K, and I was like really struggling to breathe. I had a pain in this shoulder. I thought I'd pulled a muscle. I thought, oh, this is really hurting. You know, like it's probably because I'm tense. But I kept going, and I got to about the halfway point and ran up to an aid station, a drink station, because someone was waving at me. Apparently I was like weaving a bit over the road and stumbling a bit. just boom. I just really remember. I sort of like I it's like when you're trying to breathe in, but you can't get enough air in. So it's like, so I don't know what it was, but anyway, I didn't feel so good. And so I sort of woke up or came to, and they were like checking me and bits and pieces. And they said, oh, we can't really feel your pulse. It's like, so, and or I remember someone saying this, and then I sat up and they said, oh, it's like strange, called the ambulance. And then I said, no, I'm okay, just give me some water. And I had some water, and I sort of sat up, and I tried to get up and fell down again. And I said, I can't really remember what was going on, Anyway, the ambulance came and they hooked up some machines to me, and they said, shit, we got to get you to hospital. There's like something super not right with your heartbeat. So I said, okay. So they said, we're going to pull you from the race. So it's my first and only DNF so far, which I guess I didn't have a choice. They did actually.
I mean, you were pulled. They had to. They pulled you out. It's not like you voluntarily did it.
No. But probably a good idea. Like runners are a bit stupid sometimes. They say, "Hey, I can keep going. I'll be okay." Yeah. No, I wasn't. So yeah, I went into hospital. They did some tests, and they said, "Oh shit, we it's just like a local country hospital. So it's they said we need to send you to the cardiac unit of which was about 200 kilometers away. So what's that? 120 70, 80 miles away. So they said we need to send you there. So I stayed overnight in that hospital. Then they sent me there, and they did the angio where they put a thing up your arm, a tube, and it goes up all the way into your heart. And they found that I had like the two left arteries were one was partially blocked, one was, they think, had a blood clot or something in it, and the only one that was clear was the right artery, I think. And they said, oh, you've got like arteriosclerosis, cardiovascular hardening of the arteries and blockage, and yeah, anyway. So I said, okay. And they said that's sort of the end of your long distance running career for now. You're just going to have to do 3 times 30 minutes a week. But obviously things changed, and especially at that point I probably still wasn't super focused on healthier lifestyle, diets, and really taking it as seriously as I could. And so that was a good moment to make me really examine the stresses in my life and the things I was doing. Yeah.
So I mean, that's interesting to hear that, because I mean, you're running a marathon, so I would say you're probably health or fitter than let's say 50% of the population, for example, or probably even more actually. If you can run a marathon, you're the way I see it, you're extremely fit. And so then to suffer a heart attack, was that heart attack because of things like stress and work or whatever, or was it because you were unhealthy? Because that's what
I think. Yeah, I think probably a combination, but I mean, okay, it's in my family genetically, but I never met my grandparents. They all died of heart attacks, for instance, when I was, actually before I was born and when I was just a baby. So, in their 60s, 50s and 60s, genetic heart conditions. Both my parents had heart conditions, both had pacemakers, etc. My twin sister, has also had a heart attack. And had the angio procedure as well, had the stents put in, I think. So, admittedly, it's like in the family now, the family didn't smoke and they didn't drink. It wasn't so much that, it's just probably lifestyle, food choices. And certainly for me, I drank a lot. I ate a lot of processed shitty food, and I didn't do any exercise. I mean, what more can I say? That's probably most of the risk factors there. So that, plus combined with the years of stress with the earthquakes, etc., you can look healthier on the outside but not necessarily be healthy on the inside. It's like It's like something that's also probably there genetically, as well as the environmental issues as well, environmental sort of factors, I should say, as well.
Yeah, I mean, your story is so similar to a guy who I had on a few months back. Actually, his name was Diego Varela, and he was born with a heart condition. He was born with it, and he was essentially and he sort of lived a normal life. You know, he was operation was successful, and then he got into he was really unfit eventually. So then he got into running, but then he was told he can't run because of his heart condition. Even though the operation was successful, he still kind of had it, so he couldn't run. But he, similar to yourself, he didn't really listen to the advice. He sort of kind of went against the advice, and was that when he was told don't run long distances, he still ran long distances, and now I think he's run like 5 half marathons or something, which is something his doctors all advised him not to do.
Yeah,
so yeah,
like, I think.
Go on.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Is this is obviously each person's going to make their own choice and figure out their own way. I didn't just say, oh, I'm not listening to the doctors and doing what I want. Obviously, I like came off the medication I was on because it was making me feel worse. Over time, I changed my diet, my lifestyle, a lot of the bad habits that I'd picked up, and a lot of the ways I dealt with stress. I started to use meditation, etc. And as I changed these things and came off the medication, I also went and saw my doctor every month at the time, etc., etc. And after several months, he said, "Wow, the medication is working amazingly. You've like your blood pressure's low. Everything is like so much better than it was." And I said, "Yeah, I've actually come off the medication about 2 months ago. It's like 9 months maybe into it. I reduced it, and I've done this." And he said, I can't advise that, but whatever you're doing seems to be working. So if it's working for you, you've got to do what's right for you. So I think you've got to obviously take a calculated, I wouldn't say risk, but weigh up the options and then make your own decisions based on what you want for your own health.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. Like, you should obviously still listen to your doctors. That I'm not saying don't listen to your doctors, people. Make sure you listen to your doctors. But at the end, one of the things that I really like about you and everything that you talk about, you do often emphasize the idea of you've got to do what works for you. You've got to,
Exactly.
live your life the way it works for you. It's like you said at the beginning when you said for you the materialistic life wasn't for you, but for other people it might be the 80-hour week, the Ferrari, whatever that might be for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that sort of brings me on to sort of the topic of the way I found you and the way a lot of people found you was through Instagram. You've got over 100,000 followers on Instagram. So essentially, you went from being 102 kg to being 100,000 followers now, which is mental. Running hundreds of thousands of kilometers. It all seems to have worked out pretty incredibly well. How did your Instagram or social media journey start? Because you said it yourself that none of it was for social media, and now all of a sudden, you're doing this full time. You don't have a job, but you're traveling all over the world, and you're getting sponsored and everything.
Yeah, that was interesting. Once again, unplanned. The social media side of things wasn't my idea. I just started running after the heart issues. Well, they call it a heart event now. I think that was the politically correct term at the time. It might have changed now to something else. I don't know. After that, my doctor said you have to carry a phone when you run. Before that, I'd never carried a phone when I ran. So I carried the phone, and I thought, okay, I'm in some beautiful places when I run. I might take some pictures. So I took some pictures. My oldest daughter had a look at them and said, "Hey, you should put these on Instagram." So I said, "What's Instagram?" And she said, "It's quite easy. Help me set up an account. And I just started like posting some pictures and talking a little bit about the races and the things I did. And it just grew from there. I guess it was just documenting my story. And I never thought it would become this. It was never planned to do this. There was no master plan of like captivating any kind of audience. It just happened this way. And I actually enjoy it. I like to share the adventures and the experiences with people, especially as I started to travel more. It's not always so easy to tell people what you've done or where you are. but then Instagram, has the ability to actually share your journey as you're doing it. So yeah, it's certainly surprised me. Still does. Still have to pinch myself with it and say, wow, I'm like become known in social media, certainly in this running world. I mean, I don't have that many followers in the grand scheme of things of like, many other people, but it's kind of weird because I haven't done anything. Like all that I've done is just decided to go out and run, and people sort of like have elevated it up from that. So, and I really appreciate all my followers. I still answer as many comments and DMs as I can, although I must admit it is getting harder. It's just so many now. But it's kind of weird. It's like social media has allowed us to become known for doing nothing. Like I didn't find a cure for any disease. I don't have any great achievements or philosophies. I just grew up in New Zealand, raised some kids, quit everything and went out into the world to run. So it surprised me, certainly, because from my perspective, I'm just me living a pretty average, normal life. So.
Well, I think that's why people are sort of following you, because like your sort of professional runners, extreme runners may not be aware of you, but sort of the everyday person, like we talked about in the beginning, the everyday person who's sort of holding down a 9-to-5 job and then trying to run as much as possible to stay fit. You're the sort of embodiment of what someone that has done that and is now essentially running full time. And not because you went out and said, I want to be a full-time runner, but just because you decided you wanted to keep fit. You started a project, you ended up documenting it, and now you're at the point where you're 100,000 plus followers on Instagram. Like, and I always enjoy your sort of posts. They always get me up and running as well. And I'm like, I can't be bothered. And then I see it. Like the other day, I saw your diet, and I was like, I need to sort my diet out. And then I think yesterday you posted like some egg salad bowl, and I thought that actually looks quite nice. I need to make it with avocado and mozzarella or whatever. And it's like you're a normal person that didn't go out to become a professional or an Olympian. And I think that's what social media has done. People are now attracted to that. Like they want to hear the story of the everyday person. And that's why I wanted to get you on as well. Was I wanted to hear more about the story and go behind the sort of Instagram caption, because you can only put in so much on that. And I can't wait for your book as well. I'm glad to hear, because I was going to say you should write a book, but I'm glad to hear that you're already underway with that as well. I mean, yeah, it's
most definitely.
Story, yeah. I want to ask you a little bit more about sort of, I know we spoke about the running here a lot. Before I ask you some questions that other people, some of your followers have told me to ask you about, in terms of, you went from 220 pounds to 165 pounds, which is 102 kilograms to 74 kilograms. What was that sort of journey like in terms of your weight loss journey outside of running? Because you can run as much as possible, but if your diet isn't right, you're not going to really get anywhere.
Yeah. Well, you actually hit the nail on the head. That's the key. If you're running a lot, even if you're burning a lot of calories, but you're just eating like shitty food, it's not really going to make any difference at all. And that's not a judgment. I'm just saying this is my own experience. I started to run and I was still eating shitty food and nothing really happened. But I found as soon as I changed what I was eating to actually fuel my body, and that's probably thanks to the help of I joined like a running group, and I started to use a coach, and they sort of guided me and said, hey, you'll get better performance, better recovery from injuries and issues if you start to fuel your body rather than just eat because it tastes good. So yeah, losing that 30 odd kilos. Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't so much about losing weight as I wanted to be a better runner, and the more weight I was carrying, obviously the more stress it puts on your body. So I kind of got to a point where sort of between, and I go up and down in weight between sort of like 73 to 77 kgs, depending on what I'm training for, whether I'm going to need more strength or whether I'm going to need to be leaner and faster. So it changes a little bit throughout the year. But yeah, losing the weight, that was certainly interesting. It was just at the start, I would say the first 6 months was just like hell, because it's super hard. Stopped drinking, stopped eating, like things like donuts and cakes and all this. And, I love those things, and I still enjoy cakes, etc. now and again. But it was just damn hard. And there's no easy way around it. There's no like, oh yeah, it's willpower, or no, it's not. It's just like, I just stopped buying that stuff. I stopped having it in the house, and I just started to say, okay, it's going to be worth it. If you do this today, it's not going to be tomorrow or the next day you're going to get the benefit. But I knew from like a lot of things in life by that point that it's not like these massive changes like going to the gym 6 times a week and cutting out all food and just eating salad. It's just the little things we do each day, but then you add them up over time and they become the biggest things you can do. We're also impatient today, myself included. We want everything now. We have phones, we can get 24 delivery, we can buy whatever we want on Amazon, or we can order food with Uber Eats. We want this instant gratification.
Yeah.
I think if we all just slowed down a little and we're just a little bit more patient and said, okay, what can I do today to be a little bit better? And it might just be, instead of eating 2 donuts, I just ate 1. That's an improvement over yesterday. So let's just all just slow down and be a little bit more patient.
See, that's why insurance took so long. It was testing it. They were testing it. They were like, let's see how long you can go. Right, let's test what his patience is really like. You can run hundreds of kilometers. Let's go 10 years, right? Not 5 years. Let's go 10 years and see if he does it. And you did it. You crossed the finish
exactly
line. And now they're proud
exactly.
of you. The insurance
I'm probably
on
the insurance blacklist now, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, do not give this guy insurance. He's definitely going to go all the way with
it's
it.
like, no, we can't insure this guy.
Yeah,
exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Then they're just going to be like, if they see the name Ian Morgan, they're going to be like, nope. Just cross him off. No, sorry, we can't give you any insurance.
No,
we don't have any money.
That's right.
I mean, yeah. So in general, your story it's an incredible story, and like I said before, like I can't wait for you to publish your book, and to everyone, I highly recommend. I mean, I'm sure it'll be most of your followers that are watching this, and I hope they have sort of enjoyed it. They did send me or they sent a few questions. Actually, before I ask you about the few questions, I want to ask you about the Snowman 300-kilometer run that you got picked for. So it's a 300-kilometer run with multiple peaks that some of them are over 18,000 feet, and the trek has been completed fewer times than Mount Everest, and you got picked as the one of 25 from the King of Bhutan himself. What was that like? When you got picked?
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I guess they maybe Google searched who was stupid enough or crazy enough to do this, and my name came up. It looks like an interesting, challenging event. It's through the north of Bhutan, 300 kilometers or 60 kilometers a day, I think there's 2 or 3 passes that are over 5,000 meters, 5,500 meters. I think most of it's run at above 3,500 meters. So it's certainly interesting. And I like challenges. If something is like, wow, that's going to take a lot of planning. It's going to take a lot of training. It's going to bring in a whole new lot of issues around altitude sickness and managing your body at those levels and temperatures and weather. So I like that kind of challenge, because we don't really know ourselves until we're in a position where we want to give up or it's too hard. And I think that's when you really start to find out, what your boundaries are or what you believe they were, and where you go from here. And I'm not saying, I want to destroy myself or wreck my body or put myself in situations where it could be extremely dangerous. However, I think in life you can do so much more than you think you're capable of it. And I know that's like a often said cliche, but it's actually true. I certainly didn't think I'd be here doing this, but here I am. It's just a case of putting your mind to something and then working towards it. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting.
yeah, obviously because of COVID, it's and for other reasons as well, it's not happened yet, and hopefully it does happen. Because I mean, I'm not sure if you're, I mean, I'm guessing you will be allowed to document that.
Yes.
And I'm not entirely sure. How are you allowed to have your headphones in? What will you be listening to if you have to run that long every day? Or you listen to a certain playlist, podcast? You should listen to this podcast. That's what you should do.
Should listen. Well, I would totally recommend that, but I've got a confession to make. I never listen to music or anything when I'm running, even in super long races. I just don't use headphones. I don't know why. It's just not my jam. It's just not my thing. So I'll just be listening to the sounds of nature, I guess. Well, actually, they have quite a large population of tigers and snow leopards in there, so maybe listening out for those guys too. Although I think by the time you could hear them coming, yeah, it's probably a little too late.
Yeah, probably. That's probably when you have to go really, really fast at that point, isn't it? Oh,
exactly. Well, I only need to go faster than the runner I'm next to. So
yeah, that is true. That is true. But if there's more than one tiger, you're gonna have to get past more than a few runners, because they're gonna want one each. To be fair, and to be fair, you're all fit and healthy. They're gonna want someone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So they're gonna want more than one or two of you. Like, you know, they're gonna, yeah. So I mean, you might have.
Well, that's true.
Really
Yeah, might just be a smorgasbord of runners. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like I said, more people have climbed Mount Everest than done this trek. So it is an extremely dangerous. Well, it's just crazy, I guess. Like you said, they probably looked up who's crazy enough to do it and went, you know what, Ian Morgan, let's do that guy. But so you don't listen to music, you don't listen to anything. How? And it's a perfect segue into the questions, because one of the questions that someone asked was, for that many kilometers you're going and you're not listening to anything, what are you thinking about?
Wow. I just get into a rhythm around me, and I just think about, my life, the things I've done, the things I want to do, the people I've met. I don't know, I kind of like drift. I love it. It's just like switches off, and I just think about a lot of things, and it's not even think about or look for solutions, but I kind of liken it to, my mind sort of goes into this mode where if I was lying down on the grass, it's just like watching clouds drift through the sky on a summer day. They just sort of like they're like my thoughts. The clouds are like my thoughts, I should say. They just like pass by. I sort of look at them. Sometimes I look at them for a bit and sort of examine them, and then they just drift on by and go away. Then another cloud comes across. So I kind of just go into this meditative state where I'm just really happy, like being in my own head. And I think we're so busy in our lives, thinking about how we're going to pay the bill, how we're going to get this, how we're going to save up for that holiday. When does the next model iPhone come out? So I'll have to start thinking about that. And while, we think of so many different things that I just like to like switch off and let the thoughts just come. And if they stick around, then they do, but not try to overanalyze it. And that way I actually get a lot of my really insights into who I am or who I want to be. And, solutions to problems that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think if you don't run at all, then you won't actually. I mean, I can understand even from like a 3 kilometer runner, 5 kilometer runner, 10 kilometer runner, like that, you can get some deep thoughts whilst you're running, and when you get those deep thoughts, time just flies by. And they usually some amazing, and you'll never think of those thoughts anywhere else. It's only when you're running you think of them. But I just can't imagine I can't imagine how deep those thoughts are when you're doing 10, 20, 30, 40 kilometers. I mean, there must be, you probably will end up finding the cure for cancer, because you'll be thinking that much for that long, and you'll get even more famous. You'll have 300,000 followers after that. Because all those kilometers, I can't imagine. And that is sort of one of the questions that someone did ask. Another question that someone asked was, what's the furthest you've ran in one go, and what was your time?
Furthest I've ran in one go. I think it would be 100 miles, or just over 100 miles. And that was about 30 hours, I think, 31 hours.
31 hours. So
yeah,
is that non-stop?
Yeah. not stopping.
So you didn't
Oh, to be
sleep?
fair, no. To be fair, there was someone that got a bit lost and their headlight had run out, so I went and found them, and I spent a few extra hours with them to walking with them until daylight came again the second time, because it was through 2 nights, and then carried on to finish. So I didn't get my best time, but yeah, no, that's life. That's what happens.
31 hours non-stop. That's mental, that.
Yeah, you start to hallucinate in the second night. It's quite normal actually in ultra running if you're running really long distances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I bet that's
You have hallucinations because of lack of sleep. So that's quite cool as well.
I have hallucinations after 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
Never
Trust me,
mind.
they get better.
I never mind after 100 miles without sleep as well. That's so.
Yeah.
Is someone providing you the drink, or what's going on there?
Yeah, well, they have aid stations, and you carry like a running vest with like water and food and jackets and a lot of gear. So yeah, the aid stations are about every 15 kilometers usually. So, but it was beautiful being up in the Andes Mountains and like the night full of stars. Just incredible. Just out there with the wolves and the snakes and the mountain lions. It's cool.
You're not scared that someone might just like jump at you, or an animal might just.
No, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's nature. It's life. You know, I've come across snakes, scorpions, tarantulas, all sorts of things in my travels. Bigger wild animals. It's just what it is. You know.
I mean, I don't know. I just can't imagine it. Another question that I had was getting past the sort of, and I know this might be like this is like, what's 5 kilometers? I can walk 5 kilometers. 5-10. How do you get past that 5-10 kilometer walk for someone who's really struggling to get past that sort of goal of theirs? What sort of advice would you give to them?
Once again, it's just back to that consistency and patience, like we were talking about earlier, building slowly. So, like, you know, so say you're running 10 kilometers, start to run, you know, like 3 to 4 times a week over like, you know, 4 to 6 weeks instead of running. So maybe you do a few smaller 5-kilometer runs, and then your long run at the weekend is 10 kilometers. Increase that to 11, you know, or 12, and do that consistent 6 weeks. Just 1 or 2 kilometers more. You know, that's not so much. And then after about 6 weeks, your body will get used to it. It'll say, okay, we're doing this. Then another 4 to 6 weeks, just add another kilometer or 2, and just do it over time. Like everyone wants to run further within 6 months, but you know, look at maybe doing it over 2 years, and then you'll just build and you'll get better. And then all of a sudden you say, wow, I'm up to 21 kilometers or 25 or 30. And then it doesn't become such a thing, you know. This is the boundary we set ourselves, but we just have to gradually stretch it. We don't have to go like this and like, you know, break everything. We can just take our time.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, even I've noticed as well that in terms of getting to like 10-kilometer mark, or getting to say a specific mark, when instead of sort of thinking I want to get there by 3 weeks and thinking I want to run 6 kilometers or 6 kilometers for 3 days a week for 3 weeks, before I even get to the end of that 3 weeks, I'm already running 7-8 kilometers, and I'm finding them a lot easier, because I'm not thinking about sort of I need to get to 10 kilometers. I'm just thinking slowly build it up. And you know, and that's from like a very basic runner's perspective. So if an ultra runner is telling us all to do that, then maybe we should also take that advice, heed that advice. People heed it. The last few sort of questions that people asked was fueling without needing to go to the toilet whilst you're running.
Or I just go to the toilets.
Oh, you just go?
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, to be fair, you know, obviously I'm not running through a city, so could make things a little bit more awkward. But yeah, most of the time I'm out in nature in the trails. So I always take some paper with me if I need it. So if you got to go, you got to go. I mean, we've been doing it for, you know, tens of thousands of years in the outdoors. Yeah, just go with the flow, as they say.
Fair enough. Exactly. Let nature take its course, people. Let nature take its course. Um,
Yes.
what else have I got here? I've got getting over injuries. So I think when I was researching you in one of the articles, you were talking about how you it was talking about how you still get the sort of normal injuries like shin splints and knee pains and etc. And that you specifically get some knee pains. What sort of your best advice for getting over injuries? Is there a certain thing that you should do to prevent it? Or is it just it's unlucky that it's happened? You know, you just gotta get over it.
Yeah. Okay. So the biggest difference for me, I don't really have a lot of issues around injury or overuse injuries or stuff like that. Now was strength training. Strength training and mobility work is the key. There's plenty of good YouTube channels like the Run Experience. They have a lot of good videos and information on prehab, rehab, mobility work, strength training for runners, etc. You know, and no one wants to do it as runners. Everyone just wants to run. But if you spend, 20 minutes 3 times a week doing some basic strength and mobility work, it's going to make a real big difference to your running. I'm not going to say you'll enjoy it necessarily, but it will allow you to really enjoy your running, and it'll lessen the risk of injury by a huge amount. So definitely, I would look at strength and mobility work. And I'm not saying you have to go to the gym and do like weighted squats and do a ton of stuff, 1.5 hours, just a little bit, 3 times a week, 20 minutes each time. You'll be fine.
A little bit at a time goes a long way. My second, well, I got three more
Exactly.
questions. Two of them are mine, and one of them are from here. Have you got any sort of watch and hydration vest recommendations?
Yeah, watch. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's a Chorus Vertex, but they've just released the Chorus Vertex 2. So Chorus have really good battery lives, really good battery life in their watch. Sorry, let's get my grammar correct. Really good battery life in their watches, 60 hours on GPS running mode. The new one, I think, has 140 hours, but they also do some cheaper versions. If you're just like a hobby runner but want a really good battery life in your watch, the Chorus, Pace, the Chorus Pace 2 is a good watch, and I think it's like 170 pounds, something like that. So I know it's a bit of money for a watch, but for a running watch, yeah, it's good value. So yeah, I use the Chorus watches. Running vests, I use Naked Sports Innovations, I should say, not just Naked. Naked Sports Innovations. They do running belts and vests. I mean, I am sponsored by them, so that's what I use. But I use it because I've used them before I was sponsored by them for a number of years. I just really like the products. Yeah, super good.
Fair enough. And that's all the sort of questions that I got from your followers. I've got two more questions to you. What do your you mentioned you've got children who are, well, they're adults now. What do they think of your sort of, not just your journey as a runner, but your journey at becoming so much healthier? They've seen the whole process. From being this, highly stressed businessman to being, someone who looks 30 even though he's 50, to now being, 100,000 followers on Instagram. I bet that's more than most of them or all of them.
It's a whole different thing. That kids always see you as a dad, so as a parent.
Sorry, I just lost that first bit. What could you just start that again?
Your kids don't see you as a Instagram person or a runner. They see you as a dad. And to be honest, some of the things on Instagram they find like they're like, why are you doing that, Dad? Oh, it's so embarrassing, because they see you differently, because kids see you always as a parent. They don't see you as anything else outside of that.
When you got your shirt off, like, Dad, put your shirt back on.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember my oldest daughter, who's she's 30 now. One of her friends said, "Ma, your dad's like super hot or something," and that's like the worst thing you can say to about your about someone's dad. And so they were like, "Oh, it's just like." We have a sort of a thing where we don't there's like the social media side of things in that world, which obviously is the running and the traveling, and me and Fran both post that together. But we generally keep our family stuff more separate and private. Obviously, Fran's got her kids and grandkids as well, and she does the odd like story about just like, you know, saying she's visiting them. But I tend to find that, you know, we have like a boundaries around that, in the sense that, you know, you still just want to be a parent and just a dad or a mum, and yeah, the kids see it differently. They'll always see you as dad, no matter what. So we just sort of roll with that. They laugh about it too. They, you know, because they knew what I was like before as well. So you know, I get a fair bit of shit about that, but you know, it's how it is.
Yeah, no. But like I said, they've seen the entire journey. Like we're only seeing, you know, a lot of your followers came, you know, a little later on. You know, some of them, they might have been there from, you know, fairly at the beginning of your Instagram stage, but they've seen it right from the beginning. You know, the stress moments, the earthquake, then the heart attack. You know, they've seen it all. You know, that it's like the sort of that picture of the iceberg where everyone just.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And you know, yeah, to be fair, that's, you know, what I would like to go into more in the book is like, everyone sees the tip of the iceberg and they say, that's what I want. But not everyone wants to go through all the mess that's underneath the water. And, you know, that's actually how to become the tip of the iceberg is to go through the stuff that's underneath, you know, that all the things that go into making you reach that point where you're, you know, at this point in life is, whether it's weight loss, business, relationship stuff, it's all the stuff that's underneath, all the issues and the things around that. Those are the bits where you actually truly find yourself, not the little nice peak that sticks out of the water, you know?
Yeah, no, it seems like your entire life has been, and maybe everyone's life is like this, but your entire life has been sort of a journey of finding yourself. You know, first finding yourself through business, then realizing that's not for you, and finding yourself through running, and then obviously the heart attack and being told you shouldn't run, but then getting back into it, and then now Instagram. Now it's you know, on social media. It's like a long process of finding yourself. And so that brings me to my final question, and a question that I asked to all my guests is, what advice would you give to people who are in their 20s right now, who don't necessarily know what they want to do with their life, who are in this sort of weird phase of, you know, should they just be working loads? What should they be doing? Should they be doing social media? All this other stuff. And they're seeing some people at 20 with their own house, and then other people at 20 who don't even know whether they want to go to university.
Yeah, you know, this one is actually quite easy. When you're 20, and I'm speaking from my own experience, when you're 20, it doesn't matter. Really, you've got like, you know, wait till you get to 35. I mean, seriously, like there seems to be so much pressure on young people about, so what are you going to do now you finish school? What are you going to do now you finish university? What's the next step? Well, how about you just go and live your life? Like, make a whole lot of mistakes, get things wrong, travel, don't save anything, spend everything, get into debt, or go and buy a house and work really hard and whatever. I don't know. There's no right answer. But I certainly think in your 20s, you're going to come back from any kind of mistakes like financial errors, or if you really wanted to start a business in, I don't know, selling exotic peanut butters or something, or ice cream, then go and do that. Because if you fail, you've got like 30, 40, 50, 60 to like, you know, like, also this is another thing, don't be scared of failure. And when I was 20, I was terrified of doing something wrong. Now I do stuff wrong all the time. Don't get me wrong, I don't do stuff wrong on purpose, but you know, like making mistakes, failing, having a go, that's the key. Like, just get out there and do it. I really think we put so much pressure on ourselves because of what we think society expects, when we should just be going out there and giving it a go and having some fun.
And that is it for this week's episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. It was an absolute pleasure having Ian on, and I'm so glad that I finally got it uploaded because it has been a busy few weeks. Please do consider leaving a like and subscribing as well, and following us over on Spotify, me, myself, and hopefully you podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well so you don't miss out on next week's episode, where I sit with the official senior kitman of the England football team. Yes, the England football team. We talk more about what it was like during the Euros, all the hype, getting to the final, what happened after the final with Prince William, having a chat with the players, and just everything and anything about the behind the scenes of being the senior kit man for the England football team. You don't want to miss it, I'm telling you. But thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Until next time.